Just think for a second about the phone in your hand, or the clothes you're wearing, or the coffee in your mug. How did it get to you? The answer is this massive, kind of invisible world of global shipping. But what if I told you that this huge ocean of commerce is actually controlled by just a handful of powerful groups? Yeah, let's pull back the curtain on the real giants of the sea.
This number, right here, pretty much says it all. Over 80%. That's the chunk of container capacity on the world's most critical shipping routes. We're talking Asia to Europe, across the Pacific, that's controlled by just a few alliances. It's a staggering level of consolidation.
So what even is a shipping alliance? Well, the easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think about the airline alliances you already know, right? Like Star Alliance or oneworld. It's the same idea. Competing shipping companies basically team up, they share space on their gigantic vessels, and that lets them expand their network and offer way more sailings than any single one of them could ever manage on their own.
Okay, now that we get the concept, let's meet the main players who are literally redrawing the map of global trade. And really, there are only 3 big groups you need to have on your radar.
And here they are. First, you've got the Ocean Alliance, which is the undisputed heavyweight with huge names like CMA CGM and Costco. Then there's the Gemini Cooperation, a real powerhouse duo of Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd. And finally, you have the Premier Alliance, which is a major force on those busy Pacific and Asian routes. These 3, together, they're the ones calling the shots.
But wait, there's this fascinating wild card, the Mediterranean Shipping Company, or MSC. These guys, they go it alone. But they are so unbelievably massive, controlling over 1/5 of all global capacity, that they can actually take on entire alliances by themselves. They are a true titan of the industry.
So for the rest of this, we're going to zoom way in on the biggest and baddest of the bunch, the Ocean Alliance. Because, if we can understand how the number 1 player operates, it gives us a really clear window into where this whole shipping world is headed.
And just look at their long-term vision. These companies aren't just dabbling in a temporary partnership. Nope, they teamed up way back in 2017 and have already locked in their agreement all the way out to 2032. That sends a powerful signal to the market. We're stable, we're unified, and we plan to dominate for the next decade.
To really grasp their power, you have to appreciate the sheer scale. Their combined fleet can carry 5.3 million TEU. Now, a TEU is just the industry term for one standard 20-foot shipping container. So we're talking about the ability to move over 5 million of those boxes at any given moment. The scale is, well, it's just staggering.
And here, you can see what that scale actually looks like in the real world. On that vital Asia to North Europe route, the Ocean Alliance isn't just in the lead, it's actively pulling away. Projections show them grabbing a whopping 41% of the market, while their closest competitor, Gemini, is expected to slip down to about 25%. They are cementing their number 1 spot as we speak.
Industry analysts have absolutely nailed it with this. In today's shipping world, size is everything. It's the ultimate weapon. An alliance's massive scale and network create this huge barrier that's basically impossible for any smaller carriers to break through on the major global routes.
And check out their latest power move, the Day 10 product. It's not just a slick name. This is a super coordinated network of almost 400 ships running across 41 different services. What this really means is they can offer a level of port coverage that nobody else can match, which makes them the default go-to option for a lot of global businesses.
But, having a network this huge isn't just about market domination. It also makes them incredibly resilient. So let's take a look at how this scale helps them navigate the constant crises our world seems to throw at us.
Just take the ongoing crisis in the Red Sea, for example. For safety, the alliance is rerouting all its Asia-Europe ships the long way, around Africa's Cape of Good Hope. But, and this is the brilliant part, they haven't just abandoned the shorter Suez Canal route. They have a complete backup network ready to flip on, like a light switch, the second it's safe again. That is some serious operational flexibility.
And they're not just planning for today's geopolitical crises, they're looking ahead to environmental ones too. With new rules like the EU's carbon tax coming, members are pouring billions into greener ships. You've got Evergreen investing in LNG-powered vessels, Costco's betting on methanol. They're all aiming for net zero by 2050, basically turning a huge regulatory challenge into a competitive advantage.
Okay, so we've seen how this one giant alliance works, but what does this intense concentration of power really mean for everybody else? For the businesses, both big and small, that depend on these shipping lanes to even exist.
It's a classic double-edged sword, really.
For shippers, the companies actually sending all the stuff, there are some clear benefits. More ports to choose from, more frequent and reliable schedules. But the risk? It's huge. With fewer big players, you get less competition, and that can give these carriers way more power over pricing, leading to more volatile shipping costs for all of us.
And you can bet this much power hasn't gone unnoticed. Regulators from the US to Europe to China are watching these alliances like hawks. They're keeping a very close eye on what they're doing with capacity and pricing just to make sure they're not crossing any lines.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? What does the future of shipping even look like in a world that's ruled by these giants?
It really all boils down to one simple, powerful idea. Scale decides position. In the high-stakes game of global shipping today, you're either big enough to compete on this level, or you risk getting pushed to the sidelines. That is the single defining rule of this new era on the seas.
And that leaves us with a really critical question for the future. We've seen the efficiency, we've seen the power that comes from this kind of massive consolidation. But when just a few giants rule the waves, who's responsible for making sure the tide is fair for everyone else in the global economy?